Hi Cancer, we are going to do your April 2020 Practically Soulful reading. Now I've had a couple of queries about what is Practically Soulful. Essentially, the goal with these monthly readings are targeted at those who identify as empaths, sensitives and intuitives, those who are seeking a more richer experience of their experience. Now, it's all well and good to say that we align with a higher consciousness view of things. However, all of that content, that higher knowing, is perhaps arguably irrelevant unless we apply it in the everyday reality that we find ourselves in. Because life, essentially, and the way our society has fundamentally been structured so much in the modern day era, is about disconnection, yeah? It is about anything that ultimately keeps us disconnected from nurture, from ourself, from our intuition, which will always keep us disconnected from trust. Thereby, we find it hard to trust others, we find it hard to trust in the processes of life, and we find it hard to trust in, what is required when it comes to patience and understanding and forgiveness and all sorts of things, okay? So it is one thing to say that we are spiritual, and it is quite another to practice that. So, I feel the embodiment of soul, the embodiment of higher wisdom can be applied practically. Otherwise, it becomes yet another substance, channel, process that we can use to disconnect from self and others. So, Practically Soulful each month is a reading for your sun sign, and despite what I say in the weekly readings, I do want to say that, so basically your sun sign is essentially your core. It is your core sign, the position, the sun, your life force, your core message, core wisdom, core learning. So if the sun sign is your core, that essentially aligns to the core of who you are in this incarnation, this lifetime, okay? However, in saying that, as the readings progress, I do, like I do with the weekly readings, want to encourage everyone, if it doesn't resonate, it's because it may be that you are processing more from your emotional body or your thought body or your energy body, for example, okay? So, by all means, go and check your other placements within your natal chart for your other signs that might resonate for you. However, I do feel, or my intention anyway, is for the readings to connect into those of the sun signs, okay? But I will always keep that disclaimer there to go and check your other placements within your natal. Okay, Cancer, so Practically Soulful. Messages from soul this month, the wisdoms, the learnings, the higher consciousness wisdom that is trying to ground down in your reality. Like I said in the other monthly readings, so I'll form a foundational cross which creates 4 quadrants, which marries up to 4 elements, 4 quadrants of your being, 4 weeks within a month, if you like, using the soul purpose cards that I've got here. So there's more details about the cards that I use below. I'll form a foundational cross that structures the energy of your month, okay? And we'll talk around that. And I'll then clarify that further with some tarot divided into the 4 quadrants, okay? And a good idea would be to check your weeklies each week to see how you're progressing with that monthly message, okay? So this is the one for April. Let's see what energy you are working with. You've been working with some manifestation energy, some boundaries in the last couple of weeks. I've had some great feedback from you guys. I know that the readings are general, but like I say, with all of the readings, I intuitively pick up on the souls who'll be watching this. Even if you're not a Cancer, you might be a cross-watcher, okay? You might have Cancer in your placement or whatever the case may be. So the message is intended for the souls that are meant to cross and hear this message. whether you find yourself watching it in April or not. Okay, so I walk across the timeline. So past, present, future. If you see this message a year from now, it may be relevant for you. So let's take a look, my lovely Cancers. Acceptance. Ooh, the wisdom of acceptance. Above this is guilt. Below this is relationships. In the past is abundance. What you are coming into is to gratitude. Wow. Underneath is denial. Okay, beautiful. Underneath all of this, Cancer, the challenging energies you are working with this month is simply guilt and denial. However, they are not simple. Isn't that right, Cancer? As the Cancer zodiac, you know, embodying that nurturing and empathy and wanting to be the mother of all those that you seem to come across, whether you are a mother or not. Guilt is a very natural vibration for you to operate within, Cancer, that you're essentially overextending yourself so much to the point that you forget to even check in with yourself, okay? Operating in denial about your needs is something that is housed and homed within the sacral chakra. Okay, what are you creating? If you're creating from a point of denial, you're not ultimately accepting the abundance that you have come from. Okay, you've learned, this is in the past, you've learned a key lesson, you've learned some key wisdom understandings that come with the energy that is required of you, because it is about us taking accountability and responsibility when working with the energy of soul, the energy that soul is trying to, you know, implement within our path. You have grasped some understanding when it comes to what is required of you, when it comes to manifesting abundance, when it comes to defining abundance. And you know, abundance is different for everyone. Okay, so in the past, I know I'm mixing up messages here, but just bear with me. Abundance, okay? I am a limitless being and I can manifest whatever I desire in physical reality. I think in many ways, a lot of the Cancers I'm connecting into have decided a long time ago who they are and what they want to call in. And it is as simple as that, Cancer manifestation energy when it comes to whatever defines abundance for you, okay? I can manifest whatever I want into my physical reality. It starts with a thought. It is fueled by the emotions, which you are so comfortable in, that creative center, the orange, okay? However, I do want to ask, underneath all this, you know, perhaps guilt is the only thing that's ultimately stopping you from true abundance, okay? There is a denial energy here, and acknowledging your fears, you can replace them with the insight of awareness. I think I'm connecting in to some Cancers that are still processing the remnants of denial about the role you ultimately fall into when it comes to connection. The role, Cancers that are ultimately, you know, denying how they are, you know, they get in their own way by keeping themselves busy, by creating definitions that make you feel guilty about abundance. Yeah, that's kind of complex. What are you denying, Cancer? You know, are you denying your divine birthright to abundance? Because there's acceptance here at the crux of everything. You've activated some understanding and awareness about your right to abundance and how that is made manifest into your physical reality. I'm talking to Cancers that have decided a while ago who they are and what they will and won't put a boundary line around, what they will and won't accept in and call forth and manifest into their reality. You know, that the person you were 5 years ago and 2 years ago, even a year ago, Cancer, is quite different because you are full of the wisdom of everything you've been through, okay? That is a natural progression of time. That is a natural progression of the genuine integration of lessons, okay? And when we get to a point where we are able to make manifest abundance and get to a point where we can say, I've just created that, I've called that into my reality because I decided that's what I wanted and that's who I am and that's what I'm aligning to, that's the vibration and frequency I'm aligning to. I'm talking to Cancers that are able to work with that energy, that concept, that understanding, that integration of higher knowing in the recent past. Okay, so look back on the last few months, look back on the last year. See what you have been able to manifest quite quickly. And I think you've even acknowledged it for yourself. However, what you are going through right now is actually crowned by guilt and is founded in denial. All right, so let's look at those two because they are the only two things that are getting in your way, Cancer. I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. And when it comes to guilt, I release any beliefs that no longer assist in my soul's growth. And you know what, Cancer? Sometimes we can manifest something so quickly, so amazing, so beautiful, whatever the case may be, that it's psychology principle 101. We start to push it away, you know. It's not real. And all good things ultimately get taken away, or whenever I'm abundant, I always seem to lose it, or you're denying something here, okay? And there's also the energy frequency of guilt that is ultimately still getting in the way of something, okay? I think for many Cancers, that it's work with the energy of this week's reading. You know, once we put down strong boundary lines, that first starts with us. Who do we have to put boundary lines down? You know, it's not until we create boundary lines for ourselves first that we ultimately know what boundary lines we need to create with others. And I do feel I'm talking to Cancers here that are working with remnants of guilt. You know, when it comes to abundance, when it comes to denying yourself a right to abundance, perhaps, because you feel overburdened by responsibilities that might not be yours to carry, because you feel like something might not last, because you feel like the situation will be just like the others, this career path is going to end up like the others, you know. That's a karmic loop, Cancer, and we all get to a decision point where we have to reach a point of acceptance. I am learning to accept the things that I cannot change. You know what you can change? You can change your thoughts, you can change your feelings, you can change your perceptions, you can change the energy of your will to create whatever change you want despite the circumstances that are around you. I feel like I'm dealing with Cancers that are ultimately at a point where the best thing you could probably do for yourself is to embrace the uncertainty. Look back on what you have been able to manifest to date. Work with your current environment and know that it is okay to ultimately release anything that represents the old, represents old energy cords that feel like denial, feel like guilt, feel like an oversense of responsibility to anyone else, that ultimately gets in the way of you manifesting your own abundance. I'm learning to accept the things that I cannot change. There are connections and stories that exist still, that exist in the past, that will always be there, Cancer, and realities that have already played out for you. And if we are limiting ourselves in calling forth anything that might resemble abundance in any form to you, if we are limiting ourselves because we are tying that new experience or that energy of calling in, which is already filtered, it's already filtered with our fears of the history of facts that we've experienced. So when we're working with the energy of abundance and we are ready to truly manifest in anything, you know, it's key to be mindful of what lenses we are putting up when we do call that energy forth. Is there still remnants of guilt? Is there still remnants of denial? You know, I feel like I'm connecting into a Cancer that can see like this cloud of abundance coming, or is looking around going, well, you know what, I manifested this. What do I do with it? And I'm also connecting into Cancers that can see this manifestation cloud coming in over the horizon, and the closer it gets, you're almost like getting really terrified because you've called that forth. Are you afraid of your own power, Cancer? Are you afraid of your own ability to truly stand there and make the most of what you've got, or to stand there alone, you know, and patiently wait it out? There's guilt here. It's guilt that is connected to connections. And I think for many Cancers, that's simply because what you are manifesting when it comes to abundance is an individual experience. Okay, that could be because of what you're wanting for yourself in your career, which is separate to your young family. It might be because of what you're manifesting is separate to, you know, the networks and friendships you find yourself surrounded with. It's I feel like I'm connecting into a Cancer that wants to create a whole new pathway, and you've ultimately been tied into this role and place and timeline that sees you play a role. And what you've been trying to do is jump frequency, if you like. Work with me. You've been trying to jump frequency to call forth this whole other level of yourself and your reality, and you knew that it always existed, and now here it comes. You're trying to filter out who and what fits in there. And I think that's where the guilt and denial is coming forth. You know, you're almost tossing up. It'd be interesting to see what tarot cards come out, because it's almost like you're tossing up to see who takes a seat at that table with you. And what's holding you back with this guilt energy is the old role that you've played, not forsaking the fact that every individual that's involved in your story is manifesting their own too, Cancer, okay? So sometimes it is not our business what other people are doing. Sometimes it's not our business whether people are okay or not, because they haven't even reached out to ask. Have you thought about that? You're so worried about not being able to hold everyone within your womb, because you are the cosmic mother. And as empaths, as sensitives, you know, I think any empath can relate to this. You know, we know how to gestate pain into something beautiful, or to gestate from pain to something beautiful, to make manifest something that looked nothing like it does upon its birthing. Who you are is nothing like who you were 9 months ago, even, Cancer. And I feel like I'm talking to Cancers 9 years ago. This is like a 9-year journey I keep picking up on. And it's the guilt of not being able to carry everything and everyone in your womb. You know, I keep seeing a picture of a Cancer that's sitting there with a crowd, whether it's a family, whether it's an extended family or friendship group. And just like that, as that cloud of abundance keeps coming in, you know it's coming closer, and you know you've got to let that image die. Like, no different to how a dream would change scenes, is what I'm feeling. And now I feel really sad, because I do feel the emotional weight that comes with that decision. But it doesn't have to be definitive, Cancer. Like I said, sometimes we can look at it really practical, because it is about being practically soulful, and just say and just decide for ourselves that sometimes it is not our business what other people are doing. We have a right to be able to stand there within our own dreams and goals and be able to call forth our own abundance, and allow relationships to organically fall away, or new relationships to organically develop that will ultimately take their place, you know. Because you will always have something to nurture. You will always have someone to nurture, and I think that's the big part. You don't want to drop the ball. And this feels very similar to the Capricorn reading I did, because Capricorn, whether male or female, is the father of the zodiac, you know. Now, in that weekly reading, I was talking about Capricorns are so, they've got this inbuilt, strong, disciplined sense of responsibility, because they are the person that everyone goes to for guidance, leadership, direction. You know, it's that exerted energy, and they will lead the army, the troops. And in the opposite spectrum, as the feminine of the zodiac, as the divine feminine, Cancer, the mother of the zodiac, okay, because we have been working a 2-year ecliptical cycle with Cancer and Capricorn, balancing our divine feminine and divine masculine aspects. You are eclipsing. You closed that eclipse window this June, okay? We're kicking off Gemini and Sagittarius, and you're feeling this. You're feeling the letting go. You're feeling that picture of the last 2 years fade away. Yes, you can manifest abundance. Yes, you can step into your divine right, you know, to accept that you can't change the fact that some are just not destined to be a part of your journey into that new picture that you are bringing forth. Acceptance. I am learning to accept the things that I cannot change. And I think for a lot of Cancers that I'm connecting in, there's this wanting that crowd of people, whether that is your family, your friendship groups, your old life, your old self, to come with you into this new that you know is just around the corner. This is huge. Letting go of guilt. Because underneath this is the interconnectivity of it all, the relationships that have ultimately shaped you, defined you, told you who you were and who you aren't, who you can be. And I think I'm connecting into Cancers who have decided for themselves what is relevant, what no longer is, and you're looking at the bigger picture here about everything that connection has ultimately taught you. How, what was I saying at the start? It's fundamentally about how we keep ourselves removed from connection. What's the purpose of being practically soulful if we're not integrating that higher wisdom? You know, connections teach us and invite us to connect, or they show us the patterns within us that ultimately push connection away. Connections ultimately show us the patterns we've learned and chosen to adopt. When it comes to nurture, when it comes to feeling nurtured, allowing others to nurture us, when it comes to feeling safe to reach out to ask for help and support, which doesn't happen often, Cancer, if you're the one that feels so comfortable in this old role that you play, you know, which is where denial comes into play, Cancer. I'm attracted to those people who serve my higher good. I think I'm talking to a lot of Cancers that are ultimately vibrating out of an old reality. You're releasing, and that's essentially what's been going on for Cancers and Capricorns. It's been a big couple of years, okay? 2 years of ecliptical cycles, of eclipse, the foundations of who you are, who you were told to be, who you choose to be moving forward, Cancer. This role of the nurturer, this role of the mother, had to be explored in every inch and fibre of its being so that you can ultimately come to a definitive decision about what that means for you moving forward, whether you are a mother or not. The relationships are ultimately the spiritual classrooms that we walk into when we incarnate on this earth. They teach us everything, and they reflect back to us every single truth that we have about ourselves. If we're constantly seeking attention or approval, it's because there's a deep need within us to be told, yeah, you're okay, I see you, I hear you, I accept what you're doing. Watch what you do, Cancer, when it comes to your relationships. You know, as typically, like I'm sure there's many Cancers out there that feel perhaps too afraid to open up, so they find themselves playing out some egoic tendencies, you know. And I don't say that lightly, you know, we are all human. Sometimes when we are grown and nurtured within an environment that shows us one thing, we become it or we don't, okay? And ultimately, it is a soul choice, Cancer. However, I do want to ask some of the Cancers out there to really, underneath all this is about you getting to a point in your timeline to decide what have all of the connections in your life taught you, brought you. What have they mirrored back to you that you can now distinctly see so clearly, so that if anything new does come in, it automatically, you will know if it is a part of that old world that you are now manifesting and walking away from, or if it's a part of a new one. You will know. There's a massive energy wave that has been permeating our reality since last June. I talked a lot about this in my meditation class, that call it whatever you want, you know, the old world, the new world, 3D, 5D, you know, the more any of us connect into awakening and our own connection to soul purpose, the more everything will fall away that is attached to our old version of self, our old role we played, the old masks we wore, the old fears we carried, and everything that reflected all of those, okay? So, because it's true, Cancer, there are connections we form out of fear. There are connections and attractions we form based on karmic patterning that has to be mirrored in order for it to be seen so that the trauma can be looked at and healed. There's roles we play continually. You know, why do I keep playing this continual role in all my connections, whether it's friendships, intimate relationships, whatever the case may be? Because we must karmically keep playing that until the wisdom of that lesson makes itself known. Soul already knows the answer. We don't really ground that down in our physical, you know, for not straight away anyway. I feel like I'm talking to Cancers that are really getting to the crux of that, about the wisdoms of their relationships and connections, everything they've learned, everything they've chosen to take with them, leave behind, what mirrors they're recognizing instantaneously, and what no longer fits, you know, what no longer fits into this new world that you are trying to manifest. Because I do feel like you're still dealing with something that feels like sticky tar, you know, the last remnants of guilt, the last remnants of denial. All right, when it comes to you rightfully stepping in and calling forth a reality that ultimately matches the vibration, this new vibration of who you are, Cancer. Because what you are walking into is a time of deep gratitude for the wisdom of the lessons of everything you've learned, for the wisdom and ability to see that you can make manifest abundance, you can draw forth that ideal life and relationships and connections that ultimately are for your highest good. Because all others have been massive wisdom teachers, yeah? And some of those connections have been extremely painful, maybe even long-lasting, within family, within whatever, okay? I'm talking to Cancers that are ultimately seeing everything from this higher view. And where you are right now, at this point in the timeline when you're listening to this message, you know that you're still dealing with the remnants of guilt, remnants of denial, you know. If I manifest this new reality, and I know it means I have to empty my hands of yesterday's stuff, connections, responsibilities, which, you know, responsibilities naturally tie into guilt. You are in denial if you think you don't deserve the freedom from the old, because the new world is demanding. You've triggered it already. You've started this. You've called forth. You've manifested a few things here, Cancer. And what I think in many ways is you are redefining your base chakra. You've redefined fear, so it's actually something that flourishes. I am a limitless being and I can manifest whatever I desire in my physical reality. You know, you touched on this, and then you perhaps step back a little bit. Let's see what the tarot wants to say. How many minutes am I on, Cancer? 30? Goodness gracious, this is going to be a quick one, I think. The soul cards just wanted to speak so much then, didn't they? Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. The 4 quadrants. Let's see how it marries up to your soul messages, Cancer. It is in acceptance that you can continue to accelerate that energy of abundance and manifestation that you have started. But it's like you did the cha-cha, you know, 1 step forward, 2 step back into the old world. As the old, like I keep seeing like a crevice, you know, it's like an earthquake where you've got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You will know the connections that are falling away because they are attached to the old you. You will know the wisdom of every single relationship and connection that is ultimately formed in your life, and what connections you want that feel nourishing moving forward, that are ultimately for your highest good. Friendships, business relationships, work relationships, your relationship to your work, your relationship to your family, to yourself. Connections that ultimately serve my highest good, because you don't always have to be the nurturer. You deserve to have someone that is that for you too. You're in denial about that, Cancer, but it always has to be you that is serving someone else's highest good. I say that out of love. 7 of Wands, 4 of Cups, King of Pentacles, 2 of Coins, Queen of Cups, the Fool, the Moon, Ace of Swords, Justice, 9 of Pentacles, Judgment card, and the 5 of Coins. Underneath all this is the 4 of Wands. This is your awakening card. We all experience awakening in many different layers and facets throughout our awakening journey, Cancer. It doesn't just happen once. Dark night of the soul, for anyone that's been through it, is not a glorious process whatsoever. There are many, many onion layers in the role we play as part of an awakening soul, as we continue to really dissect and get to the crux of the trauma, the pain, the confusion, the hurt, the betrayals, and ultimately how that is all wisdom, you know. I say ultimately a lot in these readings. First week of April, Cancer, you're dealing with some boundaries, which we've already covered, haven't we? We covered that in your weekly reading, about an opportunity that you perhaps are not quite sure whether you want to take. I do want to say when it comes to the 4 of Cups, it's about not missing it, okay? Perhaps even, like I said earlier, about in the past you were working with the energy of abundance, but then you sort of got stuck with this energy of guilt and not being able to accept something. So I do want to say, are you not accepting something you've actually manifested? I can't believe it's there, because it hasn't come in tangible form. It hasn't come in a form that you've wanted. The King of Cups represents something tangible, long-standing, long-lasting success. You know, out of all the kings, the King of Cups, the King of Coins, I should say, you know, is earthing. It's an earth sign. It's very grounding. It's grounded security. You know, what happens after we put down boundaries, we're able to give ourselves an opportunity to even ask for opportunity. The encouragement here in the first week, Cancer, is don't be so headstrong in putting down your boundaries that you miss an opportunity here that could actually be something long-standing. And I think I'm talking to Cancers that might even be having sharp conversations that end up being an arrangement that is long-standing. And you know, you can have a firm conversation and create something long-standing, or you can have quite a sharp conversation. You know what I mean? Sharp tongue, right? That you miss the opportunity of what it can be for you, for more stability, and actually create a conflict that is long-standing. All right? I do want to say to some Cancers out there, do not miss the opportunity that's trying to present itself to you this week, in the first week of April. Okay? This is about longevity. All right? The King of Coins is Taurus, Capricorn, Virgo. Second week. Because what is underneath all this, Cancer, is this. It's your home and hearth. What is your new level of home? When it comes to manifestation, when it comes to awakening, when it comes to what and who feels like home to you, the 2 eyes, the 2 arms, the 4 walls that feel like home. For many Cancers, they're coming into a whole new shell, a whole new vibration of what home is, what your new level of home and security is for you. You know, you're really pushing yourself outside the boundaries, because with the Fool card here, the second week of April is an opportunity for you to really step into the essence of who you are. What are you juggling? What are you willing to trade in order to do so? Are you still working and processing this energy we talked about earlier about juggling denial and guilt? You know, I do want to say, because the 4 of Cups appears in your first week, okay, don't juggle an opportunity that you'll ultimately miss, which can see you step into yourself. Don't juggle, should I take a risk, should I not? Do it, because it will lead you to yourself. This is emotional balance, mastery, emotional intelligence, nurture, okay? The second week of April often offers you an opportunity, Cancer, to step into yourself. But at what cost? Because this is also the investment card. You have to invest something. Justice, the Ace of Swords, and the Moon. The third week offers you an opportunity to connect even more into your intuition when it comes to what needs to be karmically balanced. Okay, what needs to be karmically balanced, Cancer? What are you getting clear about with the Ace of Swords? Karmically balanced with the Justice card. What do you need to get clear about with the Ace of Swords? Is it this connection to the old world, old connections, old relationship dynamics, old ways of looking at yourself, and whether you are worthy of attracting abundance and what you are willing to accept now, Cancer? What are you willing to accept? The things that you cannot change. Is this the past? Is this the reality, the present? Is this the guilt and the grief and denial, the sadness that comes with ultimately having to let go of connections that no longer sustain you, that vibrate at your old reality? That's deep stuff, you know, because the relationships card is ultimately about sustenance of soul, sustenance of not just physical, you know. This is about what sustains you, what nurtures you, especially with this card. You know, that's everything. That's home. That's what essences, what energies make you feel like you can be at home in yourself, so that you don't have to play old dynamics and old roles, so that you can just be yourself or discover this new level of yourself, Cancer, in relationships that are ultimately asking you to be that, you know. And it can feel foreign when you're so used to playing a role. It can feel foreign to attract in relationships that look nothing like old ones, because you get to this juxtaposition where you're just like, I don't know what role to play. I've always done this and I've always been that role in my friendship group, or whatever the case may be. The third week is a karmic balancing here for a lot of Cancers, you know. I do want to say, just be wary, just take note, pay attention to your intuition, because there is a gift here that ultimately is some strong clarity for you when the Ace of Swords shows up. This is a leveling up, and maybe you are working in with, you know, the energy of acceptance, because in the last week of April, this is, you're letting go. The trumpet has called. You are stepping into yourself, into self-sufficiency, and I want to say self-sufficiency because when it comes to relationships, there's a lot of guilt Cancers carry in being able to be the glue that ultimately is holding all of that together. And I know it's silly to say that, because there's not like Cancers. It's not like there are Cancers out there that are running around making sure everyone's okay. Maybe you are Cancer. Maybe you are doing that. But I think every Cancer out there will be able to resonate with what I'm saying. You feel like you ultimately have to be that glue, which comes in a pump bottle called nurture, that connects, is the interconnectivity, the harmony, the balancing of all the relationships. And in many ways, you are deeply passionate about seeing the deeper truth of the connections and relationships you have experienced in your life, Cancer, so that you can lovingly accept and lovingly let go, because it takes you a long time. It takes you a long time to get clear and cut away, and to actually genuinely come into judgment. When the trumpet sounds, Cancer, despite how you love and who you love, are you willing to break hearts to follow your own soul? And I'm not saying that you have to run off into the sunset and leave your family and be single. That's not what this is about. This is about the energy that ultimately comes with being tied down with denial and guilt. It keeps us removed from the energy of acceptance, because what grounds you, what is the foundation, is relationships and connection, Cancer. How you relate, how you connect, how you play that role of nurturer. Who do you allow to do that for you? What has your relationships taught you? Because you've played around with abundance here. You've called something forth. Maybe you've called forth a connection that resembles a higher ideal. Maybe you've called forth a reality, a success, something that you've made manifest in the physical. But then I feel like I'm talking to Cancers that are questioning that, You're even pushing it away because it doesn't fit into a new paradigm. Because in order to manifest Cancer, you have to step up into that. And it's heavy as to drag everyone and everything with you. I'm using that as metaphors. Because when the trumpet sounds, we either hear the call and rise, or we don't. And the saddest thing is when it comes to awakening, when it comes to seeing ourselves and our lives from a whole new way, the saddest thing is some people that we love and deeply care for won't hear that same call from soul. And it feels like this. Some people just don't come with us, Cancer, to where we are going, and where on a soul level we have chosen, we have been destined, because we've answered to a higher principle, something far greater than ourselves, something far greater than the denial and guilt that keeps us tied to an old karmic pattern connection. It is the saddest thing, because I get it. It takes a long time to walk away, which ultimately keeps you safe in your little crab shell on your own, because it is easier there. Because the interconnectivity is so complex, keeps you so tied for such a long time, playing roles that are not yours to play, Cancer. Your ecliptical cycle ends this June. You are going to be feeling this on the micro and macro levels in many ways, and you have since late last year. It is about the letting go of the old you, and with that, and it is a dying, it is a grief process. There is a walking away from old storylines, old ways of being, old ways of connecting, old ways of allowing. Okay, because there are new boundaries that have formed. And this is about you coming home unto you. This is about listening to something a lot higher than our very human emotions of guilt and denial and the sense of over-responsibility and ridiculous things like having guilt for being able to manifest abundance. Yeah? You deserve it, Cancer. And it is then we can actually walk into a deep felt sense of gratitude, because all opportunities that have presented themselves to you, Cancer, have been the stepping stones to where you are ultimately going. Okay? I need to end that. I hope you found some resonance. That's a bit deep. They're designed to be deep, these readings, these practically soulful. Practically soulful. Did you hear the trumpet, Cancer? Did you hear the call? Are you going to let the last remnants of the old life, the old way of being, the old way of feeling, keep you tied to the past, or are you going to rise? Big month. All right, my dear. See you next time.